Thank you for taking this moment to breathe and to listen to what can change your life forever. My name is Ragnar Sinikas, and I'm the founder of Starpreneur TV, How to Dominate the Decade talk show, World Women Conference and Awards, the creator of Coral Desk, the coach of the Changemakers, and co-author of the Dominate the Decade book. My mission is to empower through education, and thank you for joining us. Today, I have the honor to talk with Tuan. He's the founder of M21 Empowerment Group, transformational impact coach and public speaker. And he's calling from Houston, United States. So, Tuan, tell us your story, who you are, and why are you doing what you're doing, and what is your biggest passion?
Oh man, that's a good question. Transformational impact coach. I just love the ring of that because there's power in your story. Okay. You notice the first thing you asked me is share a little bit about your story and why you love doing the things you do, right? There's power in your story, and that's why you got to learn how to master it. You got to learn how to tell your story. So there's so many powerful things that I want to share with you, and I want to kind of just share bits and pieces as we continue, because I know we're going to go back and forth more of like the candid interview style. So, I grew up in this really high performance Asian driven culture. If you guys probably know what I mean. I thought I was supposed to be like a doctor growing up. And that was kind of like how I measured success was, you had to have money, you had to become successful. And the reality was I didn't want to be a doctor. And so I grew up living someone else's dream. And that eventually led me down this dark path where I found myself searching for validation and significance from the world. I don't know if that makes sense, right? I wanted a place of value. And so I got myself involved with gangs. I got involved with drugs at an early young age. Of course, that eventually got me, it got me in prison. I went to prison a couple of times, but it was just through my experience inside prison, right, was when I discovered that I had a unique gift inside me. Okay. I discovered my potential that was hidden from me this whole time, but it took for me to sign a 16-year sentence to where I would be confined for at least 5 years, where I would finally start looking inward and stop looking outward. And that's when I really started understanding that sometimes you got to go to prison with your vision to come out with it.
This is very powerful, and when I heard your story, actually, the first time on the stage of John Maxwell, I was like, wow, do we really, the question, I even remember what I asked myself, do we really need to be in those situations in our life in order to take the reflection time and really see where we are in our life and where are we going? But that was the thing which I was thinking when I was listening to you. And sorry for the interruption. Keep on going with your story because it's so powerful.
No, so I need interrupt me. Like that's the power of having a candid discussion, is just saying, hey, stop there for a second. I want you to talk more about that. Like interrupt me whenever you feel free to, because I can talk about my story all day. I've learned how to.
We'll do so.
Yeah, I've learned how to master. But yeah, no, I'm really, number one is defining your dream. Define your dream or live someone else's dream. That's the first thing right there. Is number one, when I define my dream, when I define my dream inside prison, I started having clarity for my life. And that's where purpose came, because purpose was birthed out of the pain. Okay. But that was the start where I discovered something unique. And that unique thing was that gift. You were sent to earth as a package with a gift inside. What's that gift? That gift is used to solve a unique problem in this world. And until you discover that and allow that to manifest, you're going to search all over the world trying to find fulfillment, and nothing will satisfy you. Nothing
So
will.
true. So true. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I discovered the gift. I realized that, I'm a leader. I got communication skills that can become better. And I started realizing that it's not about me, it's about them. And when I just, does that make sense?
Yeah, but was there a specific, I don't know, moment, enlightenment, book, TV show, I don't know, something which you were like, oh my
Oh,
God.
I've had many of those moments. I've had many of those moments. It's like this with my small ring light. Ding. Like the light came on, and I'll tell you guys one moment, okay? And I share this story a lot, so you guys pay attention. I'm watching John Maxwell, the #1 leadership guru in the world, on a VHS tape. Do you guys remember what a VHS tape? It's like this big, and you stick it into the thing, right? And you have to rewind it and then press play. Half of these videos didn't even work. But that was my first experience of John Maxwell inside prison, listening to leadership development, listening to him speak about communication and how it's so important. And I was sitting there, there was this one video on the law of the price tag. The law of the price tag says that you have to pay a price. Will you give up to go up? And in that video, Ragni, after he got off stage, he said, this young man came up to me and said, John, I really love what you do. I mean, I've been sitting here watching you speak on leadership all morning. I mean, you're making everybody laugh. You're just sitting there, just enjoying your cup of water. I mean, I'm counting like thousands of people times X amount of dollars. And man, John, you're making a killing, bro. You're killing it. And this is what the young man said. He said, I want to do what you do. I want to do what you do, John. And I'll never forget in that moment, I was leaning in the edge of my seat because that young man was me. That young man was me, Ragni. I was sitting in prison where it was like, I don't know what making your baby leap actually feels like, but that's how I felt. Like my baby was leaping inside. And I mean, I'm just saying that because the vision was about to be birthed, and I'm leaping inside because what I'm hearing John say. And that young man saying, hey, I want to do what you do. Remember, I don't even know when I'm coming home yet. I just know I'm leaping inside because someone's speaking to my dream. Someone's speaking to my vision. And this is what John said. He said, hey, I'm not really impressed about what you want to do. What does impress me is, what are you going to do to pay for it? How are you going to get there? Are you willing to give up to go up? And this was it right here. He says, I know you want to do what I do, but are you willing to do what I did so that you can do what I do? And that moment right there was the first part right there. I said, I'm going to the casino of life right now. I'm going to the window of life right now, and I'm going all in. That was one defining moment. What do you think about that?
Now, I remember so vividly. It was just a year ago when I heard that story. Not exactly that story, but I heard your story from the stage, and I said, "Wow! If someone as mentor can have such impact even without meeting someone, this is something incredible." And then I really understood also the importance of the mentorship and coaching and all of that. Why is it so important besides our traditional way of learning? No, but what is the greatest advice you have ever received?
Ooh, good question. What is the greatest advice I've ever received? I heard it from Dr. Miles Monroe. He said, never chase success, but rather become a person of value. Never chase success, but rather become a person of value. Let me tell you why that was the greatest piece of advice. because all my life I was chasing after success and shiny objects. My validation was based on what I looked like and what I wore and what I drove. But if you take away all those things, which they were, here I am in prison, I don't have none of those things no more. Then I lost my place of value because I decorated myself with everything that was outward and I never developed anything that was inward. That's why I love saying this phrase right here. I wanted to be discovered, but I wasn't willing to be developed.
Wow. The only brilliance comes out this morning. So wow. Yeah, so right. But I think one of the most important part also for us as leaders, and I'm not talking about just leaders as leaders for our businesses or corporations or leaders of our lives, is that we need to develop this inner strength or the inner power. So if we lose, as you said, all the external powers like cars, houses, whatever it is, then we can continue and we don't feel less fulfilled or unhappy. And I have read lately a lot of stories about millionaires and billionaires, and so many people actually are saying that if they measure their happiness, then they were much more happy without less physical things. So we need to really measure ourselves, and I think what comes more and more important in today's world is also to see what are your authentic values, because there's so much social pressure on our values or what should be important for us, that I see that really affects a lot of people. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. Here, listen to this. I was on a call this morning, and the question I asked my group was, are you pretending to win on social media, but really losing? And the reason why I brought that up is when you really discover authenticity, there's no such thing as competition. I don't have to compromise who I am to become something that I was never created to be.
Yeah, so right.
You know,
as everybody can see, you're very passionate, and you're a very passionate coach, which is hard to find nowadays. What do you think? Where does your passion comes from?
man, my passion comes from my story. Like I love the analogy of the travel agent and the tour guide, right? You got the travel agent coach that has not been where you've come from, and he's trying to guide you by just being a travel agent. But imagine the tour guide coach. The tour guide coach actually knows where you've been because they've been there, so they've overcome it and they become the perfect tour guide. Can I say this? Not every coach is going to be your coach.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so I mean, just going back to me, like I love using transformational impact coach. Why? Because I've transformed my life and I've transformed others so that they can live a life of impact. But to break it down even more, Ragni, is I was transformed through my faith, but my level of impact came through leadership and communication. Here's why. You can't transfer something that hasn't been developed. Okay. Listen to me. And so leadership and communication has really helped me advance that outside of my faith alone. So yeah, I love speaking from that place right there.
But let's talk about, you just mentioned transformational leadership. Let's talk about that. Can you describe what transformational leadership really is? I think that the word transformation has lately been like overused, and people are sort of lost what it really means. Like, what's like, you need to transform. Well, I'm not a machine. You need to transform. Like, what does it really mean?
Right. So I love the example of what is a transformational leader, and so I'll simplify it. So when your leadership inspires people to become more, to think more, to react more, that's when you're a transformational leader. When you inspire people to dream bigger and better than what they got going on, when they start looking about creating a legacy and not just fulfilling something on their own, that's when you start transforming lives. Let me give you another example. Transformational leaders see things that others don't see. Okay. Transformational leaders feel things that others don't feel. Transformational leaders say things that others don't say. They see more and before others. That's what a transformational leader is. There's many examples, not only in the Bible, but so many leaders that have transformed because they had a passion. Here's what I want you to know. Transformational leaders, they operate out of conviction, not out of obligation. It's a passion. When you hear me speak, it's because I've been through something, and it flows through me now because it's happened to me. And when something happens to you, it's gonna flow through you. And it's evident when people hear, like, dude, like, I'm convicted because he's convicted. Like, Tuan believes in himself, and it's causing me to believe too. And so yeah, it's contagious. I hope that kind of broke it down a little bit on transformational leadership.
Yeah, who would you, in today's world, and we see a lot of CEOs backing down, and there's a lot of changes and shifts in all our leaderships, because nobody has really gone through what the world is going through. Who would you say in your mind is a true example of transformational leader?
That's a simple one. I mean, outside of Jesus being one of the greatest transformational leaders, I'll speak on a little bit, and then I'll use someone right now that I look up to as a transformational leader. So let's look at the life of Jesus for an example. I'm not here to impose my faith on no one. I want to use some history to speak on transformational leadership. Transformational leaders operate on 3 different levels. Number 1, they know how to motivate, they know how to inspire, and they know how to transform. You got to know when to motivate your people, at the same time inspire. When I motivate people, I start pushing them towards achieving the goal. So I'm pushing on an external factor because I'm trying to get them to move in a direction. It's great for you to be a motivational leader. You have to progress to being an inspirational leader, where I start pulling you. And when I start pulling you, that's more of an internal factor, because I'm pulling you towards the vision now instead of pushing you. So there's the pushing and the pulling effect, which now leads you to becoming a transformational leader, where now I serve eternally. I leave a everlasting impact. Jesus modeled this really great, because he motivated the masses and he inspired the few, but he transformed 12. And because of that 12, one of the greatest acts of a transformational leadership is not what they do while they're in the presence of the people. It's what you do, what the people do when you're gone.
Very true. There's a comment. Tell us, in a context of women, who would be a transformational leader in context of women.
Ooh, that's a good question. Was that question from a woman?
Yes, Rita. Rita, write us. Where are you from? Are you from UK? Are you from India? Where are you from? We have people from India joining us, from UK, from US. So thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah, that's a good question. So when we talk about women transformational leaders, I can actually speak about a lot. I mean, think about some of these women that have a mass following. The first person that comes to mind is Rachel Hollis. Is she a transformational leader? I believe so, because she's taken her platform and she's taken her message and literally has inspired, motivated, and transformed so many women through books, through her groups, through her coaching, like all those things. What other examples can I think about as in transformational leaders? You think about Mother Teresa and just her message, and how many lives had she transformed. I love what she says. You can do things that I cannot, but I can do things that you cannot, but together we can do great things. That's transformational leadership right there, is when you can see more and before, and then you can recognize the potential of other people and bring them on the journey with you. The legacy part.
It's a
Next question.
beautiful answer, and everybody liked it. There's a army of hearts.
Okay, good, good. I can't see him. I can't see him. So yeah, keep on hitting the heart button.
And I see my sister from UK. She's also agreeing with everything which is saying. So, and we have a question here: are you a transformational leader, or are you on your way to becoming a transformational leader?
Hey, Ragnar, I got to be honest. Like, I try to stay as humble as possible. And I never want to say that I am a transformational leader because I don't think I'm there yet. But it's not about what I'm doing. It's what I'm becoming. Okay. I'm becoming a transformative leader each and every single day because I'm taking the necessary steps in transformation. Now, I'm not where I used to be, and I'm definitely, I'm not where I used to be, but I'm at a place right now where it's an ongoing journey. Transformational leadership it's a lifetime journey. I mean, it doesn't stop.
Yes. And yeah,
So,
the comment is also from Facebook. Transformational leadership is all about collaboration. Yes, we do agree. Is there a difference between transformational and transactional leadership?
absolutely. Absolutely. That's a good question. Okay. So let's talk about transactional leadership. I've heard this on a coaching call one time where you never want to sell a person on a task. You want to sell them on the vision. And we were talking about business at this time. Because you see what happens when you sell someone on a task or a product? Once they buy into the product, once they complete that task, that's all there is. But imagine, Ragnar, if I can bring you on board, and I don't want to use the word selling, but imagine if I can get you on board the vision and bring you along the journey instead of selling you on a task. That's the difference between transactional and transformational. You bring them on the journey with you, and it becomes their vision. And then one of the greatest words I love using is, hey, I need you. I need you. Because when your dream becomes bigger than yourself, you're going to have to tell people, hey, Ragni, I need you. I can't do this on my own. But how many times, and so that's a good example right there is between transactional and transformational. Next question.
How do you define leadership?
Oh, that's simple. Okay. Leadership is simply influence, nothing more and less. I mean, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. I've heard my pastor speak about this thousands of times. He said, hey, everybody has leadership ability. He goes, I've led 10,000 people to Taco Bell one time. That was leadership, right? And it's all about influence. I have the power to influence people every single day, but how am I influencing them with my leadership?
Good. So we have one comment from Rita from India. We want more women to become forth as transformational leaders. Do leave a message and guidance for that on how to do that, to inspire more women to believe in that they can.
So say that question one more time.
So basically, what would be your message, or what I think it comes down to the self-belief that the women would believe in themselves, that they can come through and they can become the transformational leaders. What would be the how to action points?
How to become a transformational leader if you're a woman?
Yep.
Ooh, that's a good question. That's a good question. What would you say, Ragni? I mean, I know you operate in that space of leadership. You're on the John Maxwell team as a speaker and coach. and you love leadership and personal growth, I want to pass the question to you.
For sure, for me, as you see, what I'm doing is growing the community. And I would say that we can transform and we can impact only when the women will have the voice, which they haven't had for long years. And even though if we see in our governments, we do have women, but do they really have their voice? I'm really, really, I would say that they don't. They are there for the picture, but they are not taken as part of really consideration with everything. Obviously, we have a lot of good examples as well. Estonia has where I'm from, Estonia has the president. She's female. Now Finland has the prime minister. She's 34 years old. So she's younger than me, and she's a prime minister. And Iceland, and there's a lot of good examples. And I think we are going there. But I think what really comes to is that we need to find ourselves authentically, like who we really are. What are those inner strengths which we were talking about? And then from there, we can build up ourselves, and then we can help others to come with us. And that for me is the transformational leadership, that I need to be strong. In my inner strength needs to be strong enough that my vision will be heard, and it will be going alive with all of that which I'm able to impact. And yes, in the end of the day, it comes back to being influential. What you just said, that's what the leadership is. But I would add to that leadership is the mainly for me, if I see, and all the clients which I have been consulting, is that it's the self-mastery first, and then how many can you impact. This is for me the new way, maybe the leadership, or how I see it. So we have another question. Is there a difference between mentor, coach, trainer, and facilitator?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a big difference between all four of those. So mentorship is more of someone that I actually look up to, that can give me sound advice. I look at a mentor as someone that can give me wisdom, that can, in a sense, even hold me accountable. I've had a lot of mentors in my life that I learned from, but it's different from a coach. Because sometimes my mentor doesn't challenge me enough like a coach. So the difference between a mentor and the coach is there not to give you all the answers, but they're there to draw out something in you. Okay? Big difference when you step into the coaching arena, all right, versus mentorship. So yeah, that's a big difference right there. I love using kind of Jesus as the example of a great life coach and mentor at the same time. He operated in both spaces. And I'll tell you why. I say that he's the greatest life coach of all time because he asked great questions. He asked great questions because he knew the answer lied inside you. How many times have you had someone just tell you the answer without ever asking you great questions? And the power behind that, right, is this. When I can draw something out of you by asking a great question, not a mediocre question. I'm not talking about asking a mediocre question. You ask me a mediocre question, I'm going to give you a mediocre answer. But when you ask me a great question, I'm going to get stuck for a little bit. And I've had my clients tell me this. I've had my clients get stuck and say, when I ask them a great question, they're like, I don't know. What's the answer? I was like, I'm not going to tell you the answer because the answer lies within you. The answer lies within you. And that's what great coaches do. They challenge you. They pull things out of you because they believe in the potential inside you. And so it's like this. They see you as a person of value, and the only way they can take you from where you are to where you want to be is by asking those hard questions and holding you accountable listen. Have you ever had one of those moments where someone asked you a question in a small mastermind group and you said something so powerful that came out and you're like, whoa, where did that come from? And you're like, man, I didn't even know I had that inside me. Well, that's the whole part of coaching right there. Is because you're never put in that environment where you're challenged enough to look deep down inside. And then when you hear it and you're like, whoa, that's a big difference versus me saying it, then Tuan saying the same thing. I don't know if that kind of just helped a little bit, but yeah, I'm getting fired up right now.
I always remember our coaching with when we did the certification with John Maxwell team. They made it very clear. They had the little colorful little ball, and they asked you, so are you mentoring, are you coaching, or what are you doing, and how can you make that person to hold up this ball that way that it doesn't fall. Do you remember that? So yeah. that was something which I really understood the difference, because I have to agree, a lot of people they don't understand what is the guru, what is the mentor, what is the and master, and etc. etc. So when we go back and see even different cultures, all those things mean different things. So the definitions are very different in each countries. So when you go and coach a different country, make sure that you know those definitions before. I have learned that in a hard way. Yeah. And next week, I'm actually going to speak with people from India. So I'm doing my homework now.
Come on.
So for your leadership is the artistic charisma to influence others to follow you willingly in doing something positive. Yes, we agree totally. So I would now like to know, what would be your 3 recommendations how to dominate the decade?
Can I give you 5 real quick instead? I'll give you 5.
Sure.
Yeah, change it up. So that, you asked me to be on the show, I'm going to give you 5 instead of 3. That's going to be a bonus. All right. So just take it as it is. Is
there going to be sales pitch after that?
It's going to be real short. I'm going to keep it just short and sweet, but going back to the greatest advice that was ever given to me was never chase success, but rather become a person of value. I'm going to give you guys a little teaser right now on my course and my book. Number 1, in becoming a person of value, I need to focus on 5 principles, right? 5 principles. I'm not going to give it all to you, but I'm going to give you the 5 principles. Number 1, a person of value is one that has to have vision. Okay? It all starts off with vision. One of the greatest detriments of a leader is one that has a fuzzy vision, because what happens is the people become fuzzy too, and then the leader has this journey where he's all by himself, and it's lonely at the top because you don't have a vision where you're bringing people along. If you're a leader and you're walking and nobody's following you, you're more than likely just taking a hike. So it starts off with vision. All right, insight is better than eyesight. Vision, insight is better than eyesight. Okay. Are you able to see more and before? And it starts with vision. The second part is, I want you to think about the word authenticity. You had someone ask about women in transformational leadership. Let me tell you this, until you discover your authenticity, you'll never become the leader that you're called to be. Meaning that until you discover your unique gifts, you'll never find the right problem to be solving, because you're going to try to imitate everybody else. You don't have the capacity to lead and transform every single thing. You have a unique gift. Find out what that gift is. Find out what your true, authentic self is. Know your strengths, know your challenges, know your weaknesses, and become valuable in being who God created you to be. Authenticity. My next one starts with the L. So remember, values, V-A-L. L, leadership. Leadership is paramount. John Maxwell says everything rises and falls on leadership. I mean, look at the pandemic that we're facing right now. Everything rises and falls on our leaders. Leaders are not born, they are developed. 90% of leaders never develop any other leaders because they don't know how. You were created to lead in your own area of function, not in everything. What's that area of function that you're supposed to be leading in? My next one is the letter U, understanding. Understanding. Everyone can talk, everyone got a message, but are you really connecting? Are you really finding your people before you lead them? Meaning that the key is understanding. There's a proverb that says, therefore get wisdom, but in all you're getting, get understanding. That's when you become really valuable. When you're able to understand others. And my last one is evaluations. Evaluations. You got to become a good evaluator of your own life. Meaning that without proper evaluations, you'll never learn how to execute properly. Take this pandemic for an example right now. It's so easy for us to go through a crisis and never grow through the crisis. So my question is, without proper evaluations, how will you know or determine whether you're growing or not? Evaluations are essential for this, and I'm going to stop, is for your scoreboard. If I were to ask you right now, what does your scoreboard say right now in the midst of the crisis? Does it show that you're losing, or does it show that you're winning? Does it show that you're about to lose, or maybe you're about to win? Can you answer that? And the next question I want to ask is, how do you determine what your scoreboard looks like? You see how those 5 things right there are so essential in just becoming a person of value. And I'm gonna leave it at that. So that was 5.
Does anyone else have questions? If not, then we will leadership, person of value, authenticity, leadership, understanding, revelation. Very well. Thank you. Taking notes. I'm so proud of all of my viewers because they are growing with me through this crisis, and they really take action on the points that we discuss here. So thank you very much. So which is your largest impact up to now?
Good question, John. My largest impact right now is to literally start a leadership movement behind prison. That's one of my biggest impacts right now, because I had to go through that experience to come out as a leader. And what I saw there, John, was society does not see prisoners as leaders, so they will never invest in us to become leaders. That's why I'm so passionate when I say transformational leaders believe things that others don't believe. No one in prison believed that I would be where I am today. They didn't. When I told them about being on stage with John Maxwell, meeting John Maxwell one day, they literally laughed at me. Like, leadership doesn't work in prison. But it was because I saw a problem and I said, I'm going to become the solution to that problem. I'm going to be a catalyst for a leadership movement. And that vision became real to me. And there's no such thing as a mass movement. God gives you that vision and you start walking it out. And your dream, your vision will always be tested for authenticity to see if it's really yours. So keep that in mind. But yeah, my biggest level of impact right now is just creating several leadership programs inside prison and having guys literally just go through transformation through John Maxwell's curriculum.
And we skipped one. He addressed the mentor and coach, but we didn't address the trainer versus facilitator. Sorry.
I know. I got too excited when we were talking about coaching there. Yeah. So with the trainer and facilitator, I operate as a trainer and facilitator. But you know what I find myself doing a lot there, John, to answer your question? When I train, I also coach in a sense. But when I train, oftentimes I'm training more on, and this is just for me, this is my definition of a trainer, is more of that teaching mode. I get into that teaching mode versus the coaching mode. So I'm training you to do the things that I do, not coaching you to getting to where you want to be. I don't know. I hope that makes sense. As a facilitator, I do a lot of facilitations in my group, but it's just really learning how to facilitate using presentations, using lessons and teachings. And I almost see kind of training and facilitation almost alike too. But yeah, I hope that answered your question, John.
And what is your community service impact or volunteer impact?
What is my community service impact? So I actually serve in one of the fastest growing churches in America. So I lead a growth track team where we work on personal growth and development, really identifying a person's gift. I also have a leadership development group that I'm part of, that I lead with too. That's growing a community on Facebook. As in, for volunteer impact, I serve in prison ministry. And so we spoke about that, where I have a nonprofit where it's the Prison Transformation Initiative, which is geared towards impacting prison culture through leadership and communication. It's just something that for 10 years when I was in prison, Ragni, they never had anything on leadership development. Why? They don't see us as leaders. So why would they invest in us to become leaders? So yeah, community and service and volunteer right there, John. Thank you for the question.
So disruptive in every way. That would be a word which we could describe you. Disruption, right. disruption. And the time that I have had the honor to know you, I know that you are, for sure, you are very disruptive. The ways that you coach, the ways that you connect with people, and that's what I love about you. So it has been a true pleasure to work with you. Before we sort of close the session, tell us more about the book project, which is the Dominate the Decade. What is this all about?
Dominate the Decade. This started back in December. Okay. So we had this crazy idea at that time. I was working with a couple other coaches, and I said, you know what, man, we need to collaborate. The power in collaboration, you guys can probably type this in your notes, is proximity matters. Okay. Proximity matters. The power of proximity goes like this. Who are you playing with right now? Like, who you play with matters. Who's hot and who's not. And we thought about this idea. We're like, you know what? We're going to collaborate. We're going to collaborate. We're going to start a Dominate the Decade book project featuring 10 other coaches and speakers in the same space. And it's really cool because we're all John Maxwell team certified. And we started that project in early January. And at that time, we were going to do a book collaboration on how to dominate the decade. We're going to have our own ebook and our course included in this project. And that's when it started. And so we're right now on the verge of actually completing everything. So we've been working pretty hard on that for the past 4 months. And I really look forward to seeing how that comes about, man. It's going to be great.
So just for the audience, the following 10 days, or actually 9, because the 10th author is me. The
right.
following 9 days, you will be honored to see and speak with all of those authors. So tomorrow we have April, Wednesday we have Rick, Thursday we have Laura, and Friday we have Joe. And then next week we have Kat, we have Jay, and did I miss anything? Anyone? Who was? I'm missing one. And Kimberly, yes. So you will be meeting all of them. And the last question: what do you think of meditation?
Man, that's a good question, John. You're asking a lot of great questions today. I could literally have the whole interview with John asking me all these questions. Meditation. I'll tell you why this is so important. Is number one, I need to learn how to sit. Okay. Many of us are trying to run this race right now without getting the proper rest. And so if you're never seated long enough to get the proper rest, you're going to try to walk and try to run, and you're not going to, it's not going to be good. So yeah, meditation is essential. Definitely. Me as a believer of Jesus Christ, like I have to learn how to literally sit, meaning that I have to say no to a lot of things so that I can grow in that one thing. Hope that answers your question, John.
Very well. Yeah. So if someone wants to reach out to you, whether it's a question, recommendation, comment, or just they want them to coach you, how can they do so?
Okay, so the best way to look for me is you can find us on www.m21 empowerment group. I guess I can type that in the feed, or you can, right, Ragni?
Yeah,
But
sure.
outside of that, I would love for you guys to join our Facebook group. It's at M21 Empowerment Group. So if you look up M21 Empowerment Group, you'll see me and April Holly. And I'll let her, she has a women's group too for all you transformational leaders that are women that inspire to impact the world. I'll let her pitch her women's group tomorrow. But yeah, you guys be sure to join our free groups. Like we do a lot of leadership trainings. I do a lot of team building exercises. So it's a great place if you want to build on clarity, confidence, and consistency in your leadership and communication. And it's free. It's a free community that I offer a bunch of stuff to.
The website was m21empowerment.com or empowermentgroup.com.
.com. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Now, April was faster than I was, so.
Oh yeah, she's watching.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for taking the time. I want to thank you for the very adventurous time that we have spent on that, creating that book, really learning and going through lots of different experiencing. So thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time today to talk with our community, and thank you for really noticing what is missing also and where you can impact the most, in a sense that I think that disruption way of thinking regarding the prison and how we can actually make change or be the change maker there is something huge. And I want to congratulate and celebrate that you have been taking that also as your mission. Also, I would like to thank everybody who joined our call today here. Jaya, thank you for calling in from UK. We have John from UK. We have Liz, I would say, most probably from Mexico. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe from Latin America, or maybe from America, not sure. But we had a lot of people from India. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. So we have a lot of people from Estonia. Thank you for joining us. And obviously from Mexico, and who else do we have here? And from US as well. So a lot of John Maxwell team members who were jumping on and off from the call as well. So why are we here? We are here to support you, to service you, and to add value to your life. If you heard today something that you know that can change someone's life, or maybe it's your life, you heard something, then please, 1, write it down. 2, take action, and take action within the following 48 hours. Why is it important? It's important because the speed of implementation will set you apart, and especially in today's world, where everybody is just sitting back and waiting for life to happen. So I want you to really sit back, take the reflection time that we just talked with Tuan today, and we just opened with that that note, how important the reflection time really is for us, and really understanding what are our strengths, who we are authentically, and really to find our inner power, which will set us apart as as leader, and also as a better human being. So also be the leader of someone else's life. Share this video with people that you think would need to hear that. We talked about today just a little bit about empowering women as well as leaders, and the leaders that the world is in a desperate need. So share this video. Everything is possible, and everything is created twice. First in the mind, and then in reality. So be the change maker of your life and change the lives that surround you. Tuan, is there anything that you would like to say?
Yeah, I'll close up with one more question. And the question I want to ask you guys is this: how do I get comfortable being uncomfortable? Okay. How do I get comfortable being uncomfortable? And I'll give you the answer because this question challenged me to really think. And the answer is 3 words. How do I get comfortable being uncomfortable? 3 words. You ready? I am enough. I want you guys to remember that. That despite what you go through, always remember that you are enough. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. We will see you tomorrow at the same time as the same goes for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So join us, and you will see the very different approaches to John Maxwell teachings. So that's the beauty of it. We all have one mentor, but we all have our authentic selves, which are basically who we are as coaches and as leaders and speakers. So see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful day, or already night for some people that are joining us from Europe. And thank you very much for joining us. Goodbye.